Hello and welcome to the American Ultra Stock channel. 2-0, the United States retains the title. It's a three-peat in Nations League. Mexico in the mud. We win, and here we bring to you guys the official analysis from our channel, reviewing the lineups, first half, second half, main takeaways from the game, and was this camp successful or not. Starting with the lineups, Braden, take it away.
Yeah, and I think Greg came out with a very good lineup. There was a couple of questions as to what he was going to do, especially after the unconvincing win over Jamaica. But he came out, and I don't really think I can complain about anything. Were there a couple of things that maybe I would have done differently? Sure. But I think for the most part, all of his choices made sense. Having Ream back in there instead of Miles Robinson really made a difference. I thought Ream was excellent in the game. We'll get more into the analysis later in the video, but having him there really was excellent. Having a steady hand, a calm hand, experienced player, because we know the team's very young. Having a little bit of experience and maturity and some soccer IQ in the back really helped. Dest coming back into the lineup, obviously, after his suspension was big. Adams starting over Johnny as anticipated. I thought it was the right decision to start him and the right decision to bring him off at halftime as well. And yeah, starting Haji right up top as well was, I think, the main headline for the lineup. Not what I would have done. I would have had him on the left, Pusick on the right. We've been over this. But I think it was a bold decision from Greg, and I rate it because even though it's not necessarily the ideal lineup, what I would have done, I rate the fact that he's going based on form, rewarding Haji, who got 2 goals off the bench against Jamaica, really was one of the main reasons we ended up winning that game, rewarding him with a start here in the final.
Yeah, I think it was interesting that Greg made that tweak. I didn't expect it at all, and we'll get into the game, but I think that it proved that playing as a 9 on Greg's system is really tough. There have been a lot of guys playing there, and it's hard to really have a great game. I agree with you. I think that Ream was excellent. Just to give the viewers a little bit of a schedule of how the video will go, we just analyzed the lineup. We'll go into the first half, second half, and final thoughts on the game and if the camp was successful or not. Which brings me to the point. As I said, Ream was great. Didn't have much to do really defensively because in the first half we had 61% possession. We had 4 shots. Mexico only had 1. What did you make of that game? And do you think that the goal at the very last second basically bailed us out and is going to sugarcoat a little bit of how boring and static of a performance it was up to that point, Braden?
I wouldn't say the goal bailed us out necessarily, because I think when you use the term bailed out, I would use that for the Jamaica game. That own goal at the end bailed us out because we were not the better team on the night. We deserved to lose. We end up getting that goal, and we go on and prove that we are the better side. And extra time, I wouldn't say we got bailed out here. I thought we were the better team, although, like you said, it was a little bit stale, boring, a bit of a cagey first half, which is what you would expect from a final, but it's not what you would expect from a USA versus Mexico game. Very uncharacteristic of the rivalry. I think maybe a little bit of fear in the Mexican players' minds. The mental aspect as well is so underrated, and the fact that they haven't beat us in 6, now 7 games after this, it's a huge pressure on the players. They've had 3 different coaches now in a very short span that have all failed to beat us. There's definitely something going on behind the scenes. They just don't have the mentality, and I think because of that, they came out a little bit scared. And honestly, our boys did as well. I think we failed to settle into the game until around the 35th minute, where we started to finally string together some passes. I think Dest really showed his flair a little bit, dribbling through a couple of players. Pusick had an early chance as well. A beautiful touch to get by a defender, but a poor finish right at Memo Ochoa, who made a good save. That's about all he did on the night, but it was a good save to keep us off the scoreboard early, because I do think if we had got the early goal, it would have been a bloodbath. But it was a pretty boring first half, but we have to talk about Tyler Adams. You see behind me the background, the celebration that he did, absolutely silencing the haters with a screamer. He doesn't score often, but when he does, it's a huge goal. One of the best goals I've seen from a USMNT player in so long, from 35, 40 yards out, just unloads an absolute missile and gives us lead going into halftime, and it's exactly what we wanted going into the break. It made Mexico completely adjust. I'm sure they would have had a completely different game plan if it was 0-0 at the break, and it gave us some extra confidence as well going into halftime.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the main talking points, you hit the nail on the head right there. I will say that Dest looked good defensively on the first half. I think that Although he's a switch off on him, he did look really good, recovering at some points when he was caught out. I will say also that Reem, again, excellent in what was maybe one of the most biggest opportunities really that Mexico had. It was two of them. One was a Chavez shot, and the other one was a misplaced pass by Chris Richards, and Reem was quick to react to it. I think that Chris didn't really have the only player that, if I have to pinpoint and didn't have a great game, it was Chris Richards. But solid performance. The goal set up the tone for the second half. Really important to go into the half with the advantage. And then we saw only one change at halftime, which was granted based on the minutes restriction, I believe. That's probably why Greg did it. Tactically, there wasn't really a need for it. But Johnny came in for Tyler. And Mexico, we thought was going to take the game to us. Didn't really do that, or couldn't really do that right at the beginning of the second half. Looked a little bit better for a while, Braden. Your main takeaways from that part of the game?
Yeah, like you said, Johnny coming in at halftime, and I will say it definitely was a tactical minutes restriction thing. You can't sub off a player after that goal unless he does need to come off due to minutes restrictions. I'm sure Bournemouth were keeping an eye on this game in particular. They want him for the rest of the season. There's probably an agreement made between Iraola and Berhalter before the camp started. And I will say, Johnny, I think he has been deserving of a chance, and maybe more of a chance than he got. I don't think he took that chance very well. I'm not saying he was necessarily bad, but I think there was a little bit of sloppy play, a few misplaced passes. He didn't really show anything to warrant starting over Tyler Adams for the foreseeable future, which a lot of fans thought that he might be able to do that. We made our top 10 CDMs video a while back, and there was a lot of debate in the comments on Adams or Johnny. A lot of people had differing takes, but for now, based on that game, it should still be Adams. And going into the second half, I think it was a lot more open, and that's the given. When Mexico's down 1-0, they can't sit back and keep it a cagey game because they need to go up and press. And ultimately, we did get the second chance around the 60th minute, 63rd minute. Pulisic just does absolutely magnificently on the wing. Ends Uriel Antuna's career. Maybe too late. I think maybe some would say his career should have been ended a while ago. But Pulisic, a little Messi-esque dink over him as he lay on the grounds, puts it back across. Ball kind of pinballs around, but falls to Gio Reyna around the penalty spot, edge of the box area, and a beautiful first-time volley, a little snap at the ball, beats Ochoa at the near post. I will say Ochoa probably should be doing better there. You can't compete at your near post, especially as experienced of a goalkeeper as he is, but beautiful volley from Gio Reyna to give us the 2-0 lead, and he deserved it. He's been our best player this camp. He was rewarded with the Golden Ball, the Player of the Tournament award, rightly so. He was excellent, probably my man of the match for this game, and was definitely the man of the match against Jamaica. Great performances from Reyna. Continues to show his clubs, Dortmund and Nottingham Forest, why he deserves an opportunity. Whether he'll get that, who knows. And another shout out, I need to give one special shout out to Tim Weah, because I don't know if you guys were there for the stream. We were streaming the game live, and during that and a lot of videos in the past as well, I've been very critical of Tim Weah, and I thought he was a non-factor, non-existent in the first half. He came out of the second half with a new hunger, and he was everywhere. In the first half, everything was down the left-hand side. Second half, all the attacks were down the right, except for that one goal that we got, which you could argue is the most important attack. But Weah was always involved, getting on the ball. He looked a lot more confident. He was driving forward more, taking on defenders, putting in crosses, and really showing that extra tenacity that we would want from a player. I don't know if Greg said something to him at halftime, maybe that elicited a reaction. I don't know if maybe he turned on the stream at halftime, who knows. But he definitely had a point to prove, and he proved it. So fair play to him. I'll hold my hands up. It was a great second half performance from Weah.
Yeah, you see it. I don't know if people were watching or tuned in or Paramount Plus. As soon as Tyler runs and Greg hugs him, he calls out Weah and holds him and says something to him. I don't know if he already... Honestly, I have to give props where it's due. I think that Greg had a good lineup, did well with the subs. And if that moment of talking, even noticing that Weah was the player with the least amount of touches that participated the least in the U.S. in the first half, if he said something to him, it provoked a good reaction because Weah was a lot more effective. I will say as well, based on touching on what you said about Johnny, I think that he wasn't that alert. The one good opportunity that Mexico made out of nothing really was Chucky on the left wing, where he went around Johnny. Johnny didn't commit to a challenge. passed it on. Henry Martin gives it back to Chucky, and Johnny's caught ball watching, not really alert to it. I think those are moments where tenacity and intensity and knowing what this means may come into play. And I don't think that if Tyler is there, that would have happened. We would have given away that shot. It was an easy shot, but I think that that brings me to my next point. The main takeaways from this camp. This is one of them, perhaps, where Tyler is ahead of Johnny. We have to talk about the camp as a whole as well. I think Gio emerges as the standout player, obviously, for his showing against Jamaica as well as today. And I will say defensively, he was great in the second half, really, really well to get some clearances in, interceptions, get the foul that set up to the second goal, right, starting on that left-hand side. So as a whole, ignoring a little bit of that in the Jamaica game, if you want to, is it a positive? Is it a negative? What does it set us up for in Copa America, Braden?
It does end on a positive, but I do think overall the camp is kind of a net neutral just because of how bad the first game was. And it was worrying, honestly. The fact that we still don't know how to break down a low block. We saw that against Jamaica. I said it in the preview video. The Mexico game was going to be a lot easier than the Jamaica one, and I was proven right because Mexico don't bunker, even though they probably should have, and they would have had a better chance if they did. I'm not sure how Greg would have been able to react to that. Again, the mental aspect as well with Mexico and their players, their coach. But yeah, I think the main takeaway is you kind of mentioned them already. Tyler Adams has firmly cemented himself as the six. He's ahead of Johnny for now. Not just because of the goal, just because of the overall performances. He came on a minutes restriction, and particularly here against Mexico, he had a very solid game. Johnny failed to capitalize on his chance. Nothing taking away from Johnny. He's still getting fully integrated into the team. He hasn't really had as many chances as we would like to give him, but I think that's the time for after Copa America to give him those chances and have him potentially be our starting six in the 2026 World Cup, because he has the potential to surpass Tyler Adams. We all know that to be true. Another one, Gio Reyna. It's the obvious takeaway, and it's the takeaway every U.S. camp. It's always the same story with Gio Reyna. He's not getting playtime at club, whether it's injuries, whether it's due to managers not rating him, other off-the-field aspects, but he comes into the U.S. camps and performs every time. We saw it in the Nations League last summer. He was probably man of the match against Canada in that final, just being the maestro in the midfield. We saw him be the maestro again against Jamaica, providing the 2 goals for Haji Wright, and here getting a goal of his own to cap it off, winning player of the tournament, like I said, and really cementing himself as one of the best, most talented, at the very least, players on the team. Hopefully Nottingham Forest take notes and give him some minutes to close out the season, because if they don't, it's just a waste of money on their part loaning him in. Other takeaways, we still don't have a 9. I'm not saying that because of the talent. I'm saying that because of the system. Greg Ball, it is what it is. It's going to be the system for Copa America. Probably going to be the system for the World Cup in 2026 as well. And we still haven't seen a striker adapt to that. We've seen Balogun have chances. We've seen Pepe have chances. We saw Haji Wright get a chance today. We saw even in the World Cup, Josh Sargent, Jesus Ferreira got chances, as well as Haji in that game against the Netherlands off the bench as well. And none of them have really impressed too much. There's been some flashes. Pepe has come off the bench and provided some sparks, scored some good goals. Balogun had a very good game against Ghana. But I think overall, there hasn't been a notable standout. And I think we saw this by Haji Wright getting the opportunity today to start over Balogun or Pepe. None of them have cemented themselves as the starting 9. It is great that we have a wealth of great options that are performing in high level leagues and clubs all over the world. But I think ultimately one of them needs to come in and really cement the spot, and that just hasn't happened yet.
That's an interesting takeaway, because it's very easy for us to carry ourselves and get deluded and delusional and say that, well, we just won Dos Acero, team spirits are at an all-time high, we bounced back from Jamaica. And yeah, there are ultimately points that we need improvement in. And I think that tactically too, even though Gio did the best he could, he had an amazing game. I think that he was instructed to play as a left-sided center mid. He wasn't really playing the 10. Obviously he creates, but if you look at the team shape, he wasn't. And I don't know if Greg is able to adapt to a different play style. It is what it is. 3-man workhorse midfield. Just happens that one of them is technically gifted and can bring special moments. Thankfully he did, and we showed out and won the game. So thank you guys so much. Thank you guys that tuned into the stream. Again, we'll be definitely doing that over the summer. And let us know in the comments below, what do you guys think? Was it a positive? Was it a negative? Are you happy to see Greg in? Some people are saying, should we back Greg? Honestly, we have no choice, and I think it was a good sign. Hopefully, Jamaica was just a case of underestimating our opponents, and since in Copa America we'll be facing bigger opponents, we'll be on our A game and hopefully show out, have a statement tournament. So leave a like, subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll see you next time.